This right here is the Surface Laptop 7, and let's be honest, it's a breath of fresh air because the previous generation Surface products were boring to say the least. However, this configuration is truly special because it's Microsoft's take on Windows ARM all over again. We've got Qualcomm Snapdragon X Elite processor, 16GB of LPDDR5X memory, a petite 256GB SSD. We also get Qualcomm's Adreno integrated graphics, Wi-Fi 7 and Bluetooth 5.4 standards, and this is the 15-inch variant of this laptop. Now, the Surface Laptop 7 truly wants to stand out. You can just see it by looking at this thing. It is essentially the MacBook Air of the Windows world, and I feel like a lot of its fans kind of have that expectation from this machine. So today, objectively, we're going to see what this nimble beast is capable of, so let's get started. The Surface Laptop 7 will definitely cost you a pretty penny, but in return you get this really stunning minimalist style packaging that you'd expect with a high tier laptop. Open that up and behind some environmentally friendly protective packaging, here it is, the Surface Laptop 7 in the flesh. Now we'll come back to that in just a minute. We also get a 65-watt charging adapter that has Microsoft's Surface Connect proprietary charging port, and you also get the standard wall outlet charging cable piece alongside some basic documentation. There are only a handful of laptops that look as stunning and graceful as the Surface Laptop 7. This thing is pure premium class. It's got a clean metallic exterior from top to bottom. That silver color really brings it to life, and I appreciate the fact that Microsoft keeps a minimalist look to it. It's got nice linear edges, a symmetrical look, no unnecessary grooves or edges. It's clean in the most elegant form possible. The laptop does have a hefty weight of about 3.66 pounds, which is expected given the choice of materials over here. Now, starting with the top side, again, like I mentioned, a clean silver color here with no unnecessary textures, and at the center you have that super nice looking reflective Microsoft logo. In terms of I/O ports, you've got a decent amount of diversity. So on one side, you've got a headphone jack, a USB-A super speed port, you've got two USB 4 ports. On the other side, you've got Microsoft Surface Connect port. Additionally, you get a micro SD card reader, which should have been a full-size SD card reader for more practical compatibility. The only thing really missing here is a HDMI port, but I would say that's a minor inconvenience given we have other ports here. The bottom side of this laptop, again, really clean. It's a metallic exterior. You've got some rubber grips, and you'll notice that there's no air intake vents at the bottom. Those are directly on the top bottom side here. So you can actually use this laptop on your laps. I never thought I'd have to advertise that as a feature, but 95% of laptops just can't be used on your laps without blocking the air vents, so here we are. Unfolding this laptop presents you with a graceful metallic exterior inner chassis that looks so nice, and thanks to that larger 15-inch form factor, you get a reasonably large amount of palm rest space here. At the center, you have a high quality glass surface trackpad that's as nice to touch as it is to see. And yes, because it's a glass surface trackpad, you get haptic feedback and there's virtually no flex whatsoever. It's really tactile. It's just a great trackpad to use overall. The keyboard, equally as impressive. You've got a great layout here. Those gray keycaps combined with that easy to read white font just provide for a really nice aesthetic appeal. Additionally, the keyboard is fully backlit, though the backlighting is a little bit more on the subtle and weaker side, admittedly. You'll also notice that you do not get a 10 keypad. That's obviously a deliberate design choice, so ultimately that's going to come to preference if that's a problem for you or not. Now, as far as the actual typing quality goes, this is such a nice keyboard. You've got a decent amount of key travel here. You'll also be happy to know it's tactile, it's soft, and it's a great typing experience overall. Just like previous Surface laptops, the hinge quality here is very reliable. There's not a lot of wobble, it's well tuned, and it should last for the years to come. As far as display fitting is concerned, you do have a bit of a noticeable chin at the bottom when compared to laptops like Dell XPS, for example, but the side bezels are nice and narrow with modern day standards in mind. And then same thing for the forehead, it's pretty thin overall. At the center, you'll find a full HD webcam that has a built-in IR scanner, and it looks pretty nice and does pretty well in low light settings as well. The Surface Laptop 7 has a promising display, so you've got a high quality IPS panel here with a approximate 2.2K resolution and an interesting 3:2 aspect ratio specifically geared for productivity use. Now you also get a peak brightness of up to 600 nits with HDR content, which is nice and bright, though it is worth noting you do have a glossy finish. You also have a touch sensitive display here. As far as color rating is concerned, you get a high quality DCI-P T3 rating of 99% and a 100% sRGB rating, meaning colors are vivid and flush, and this laptop visually at least is great for creative purposes that are color sensitive. A quick recap of the technical specs we have on board. So we do have Qualcomm Snapdragon X1E-80 processor, which is technically the third highest from that lineup. We've got 16GB of LPDDR5X memory. We also get Qualcomm's Adreno GPU, which is basically their take on integrated graphics. Depending on where you are in the world, you can spec for a larger hard drive and the lower tier Snapdragon X Plus processor instead. Given this laptop is geared for general productivity, everything from surfing the web to online banking to watching videos online or doing word crunching is going to be a smooth experience. You can also get away with doing some really smooth programming and code compilation without any sort of performance issues, which is nice to see. More demanding activities like 3D modeling, however, a fairly choppy experience, especially because we don't have a discrete GPU, but it's just not right now in an ideal state. And if you try to do multi-layer full HD video editing, you'll do pretty well. There's not a lot of frame drops, but the performance does seem to be slightly less when compared to similarly spec'd x86 processors. And if you do 4K video editing, you're getting a lot of frame drops to the extent that I'd say it's almost a non-viable experience, especially if you're doing multi-layer editing. Gaming performance is the most disappointing element of this machine right now. Games like Counter-Strike 2 can barely hit 30 frames per second, and even with that, you get frequent frame drops. When compared to similarly spec'd x86 processors, you're getting about 50% less performance. With i7 chips, for example, you can easily hit 60 FPS with integrated graphics. Yes, there is obviously translation going on, which adds to overhead in the performance department, but ideally speaking right now, x86 chips are just better for gaming when compared to ARM chips. Somehow, Microsoft managed to drop the ball with thermals. This is the only Snapdragon X Elite based laptop I've seen so far that managed to hit an average surface temperature of 42 degrees Celsius under unrealistic peak loads, with realistic sustained loads yielding around 39 degrees Celsius. This is about 4 to 5 degrees hotter than every other Snapdragon based chip or laptop that I reviewed so far. Fan noise is actually quite pleasant with a maximum hovering around 42 decibels, but the problem is, do anything more than general productivity, the fans do go off, and I definitely think there's insufficient cooling going on here. I don't know how Microsoft managed to make thermals a problem with this machine. As far as self-upgradability is concerned, you can technically upgrade the existing M.2 drive on here to a maximum of 2 terabytes, so everything else is soldered on board. The Surface Laptop 7 comes with a 66 watt-hour battery with a 15-inch variant, and with a realistic use case, you can expect just shy of 16 hours of runtime on a single charge, which is technically the highest we've seen of any other Snapdragon based chip that I've reviewed so far. However, a lot of YouTubers have exaggerated these numbers going all the way up to 20 hours. Unless you're just staring at your laptop, you're not going to hit 20 hours, but nonetheless, 16 hours is a very impressive number by every standard. Now, as far as speaker quality goes, it is a top firing system with the volume coming primarily from beneath the keyboard. It sounds pretty nice. Here's a quick sound test for reference.
I shoot my shot like Michael, Jordan to the top, here I go, winning on like a maestro, never gonna stop, no I won't, I know I make it look easy.
With a $1,300 price tag for the configuration we have here, the fact is that the Surface Laptop 7 clearly competes as a parallel to the likes of the MacBook Air. In return, however, you get premium elements like a clean metallic exterior design. You also have a high quality trackpad and keyboard, a stunning display with touch captivity and a 120Hz refresh rate, and a decent selection of I/O ports generally speaking. However, as far as things like thermals go, there's a lot to be improved here. This is one of the hottest Snapdragon based laptops I've seen, and not in a good way. However, battery life here is extraordinary. This thing truly can last all day long, and if you're looking for a premium tier all-day lasting general productivity laptop, the Surface Laptop 7 is a great contender. However, if you're looking for something with more heavy-duty performance, you might want to stick to the traditional x86 laptops, at least for this generation. Let me know what you think of the Surface Laptop 7. If you already have one, I'd love to hear your thoughts. And as always, if you enjoyed the content, please consider subscribing to this channel and liking this video. It genuinely means the world to me. Thank you so much for watching. Catch you in the next one.